DCU is dead.
Is dead. Bury it.
And even though I liked what the DCU was doing because it was so different from Marvel, I understand why it didn't work for a lot of people. A lot of the mainstream audience rejected it, obviously by the tanking box office. But we have a new DC universe coming ahead with James Gunn and Peter Safran taking over. And I think that there's a few hurdles that the James Gunn has to go over and leap over before he can get a smooth ride into that big cash that a lot of comic book connected universes want, like the MCU. This discussion is starting because of one of my subscribers. This is episode 3 of Attacking Zach, where you guys ask me questions that you want me to answer specifically in video. If you have a specific question about movies, TV shows, movie franchise, personal life things, top 5, anything, drop those in the comments down below. Let's get to the main video. The one thing I gotta say that the things that the DCEU suffered from was disorganization, no plan, and no trust in their creatives. And I think that these are some things that James Gunn also already shown that he has in the bag. He has a clear vision of what he wants to do. He's already trusting his creatives. We're seeing that the woman that is going to be writing Supergirl, Woman of Tomorrow, will also be writing Teen Titans. That's a very big vote of confidence right away before we even see a picture of Supergirl in costume. And I think that's going to make other creatives who are well versed want to come into his universe. He looks like he has a whole plan out and he has somewhere he wants to lead, but he's keeping mystery, kind of like how the MCU did, where it's actually going to go and all collide together, which I think makes things exciting. So I think James Gunn's doing a really great job of giving us enough that we're interested, even though some people are more cautiously optimistic like me. Some people are not too sure because they want the Snyderverse to continue, which is not going to happen. And then some people are over through the moon, and that varying range can be very, very different. One can get really loud and one can get really low depending on if he can jump over a couple of the hurdles that I have here. So the biggest thing that James Gunn has to deal with is the fact that the DC universe has been around for 90 years. 90 years. That's 90 years of comic book, animated shows, live action TV shows, live action movie history with multiple iterations of the character across the board. People growing up with it, passing away with it, introducing it to their grandchildren. This universe has been a part of pop culture for a very, very long time, and with that comes multiple iterations of many different characters. See, the MCU when it started didn't have to deal with this. We had not a lot of different versions of Captain America, Iron Man, and just the original Avengers 6 that we had there, so it felt fresh and new. Yeah, there were TV movies for Captain America that was very low budget, and there was a Hulk show back in the day, but nothing in the movies that could compete. With James Gunn, he has something that a very different problem when it comes to that. We have so many iterations of Superman, so many iterations of Batman. We now have an iconic iteration of Wonder Woman that any Wonder Woman after this will be compared to. Even Jason Momoa Aquaman was iconic at a point. He has $1 billion movie, and then Lost Kingdom, or whatever that movie was called, actually ended up doing decent at the box office considering what people thought it was going to happen. And unfortunately, the Flash reputation has kind of been hurt. But while the Flash show was popular in the beginning, it kind of deteriorated towards the end where people got soured on the character.
I'm the Flash.
See, that's what you don't get. When I put this ring on my finger, it wasn't just about you or me anymore. It was about us. You are not the Flash, Barry. We are.
No, God! And then also Ezra Miller being the first version we see in live action in the film, in the movies, really hurt that character as well. So that's something that he's going to have to recuperate. Obviously, things like Green Lantern with Ryan Reynolds might have been a long enough time since that movie where people will kind of forgive it and just give it a fresh start. But there's so many different iterations of these characters, and James Gunn is now going to have to compete with it. Just thinking about him casting David Cornsweet as the Man of Steel himself, immediately people were like, oh, this is a bootlegged Henry Cavill. Memes out the wazoo. Obviously, it's not fair to the actor, but as the mainstream talks about and see these things, Henry Cavill was their guy. Everyone wanted to see Henry Cavill reprise his role and get a second Superman movie. And the way things went about is always going to be a haunting over the DC universe and James Gunn, unless Superman Legacy, or now it's called Superman, is just a knockout of the park, kind of a similar like ultimate edition of Superman that makes you completely forget what Henry Cavill did in the past. But unfortunately, that character is still gonna have to compete versus Tom Welling, Tyler Hoechlin, who is my favorite live action iteration of the character, Christopher Reeves, and some of the animated stuff. A lot of people are now referencing Justice League, the Superman animated show, even the new animated show that just came out, HBO Max. All these different versions of Superman. It's somebody else's version of Superman that they love. Depends on the suit. Does he have the underwear or not? These are things that are going to be crucial that fans are going to pick apart. Fan casting is going to hurt James Gunn the most because people already have who they think should be Superman. Whether it was Henry Cavill or someone else, no one picked David Cornsweet. It came out of left field, and that's going to go through the rest of the cast. Whether it's, Nicholas Hoult as Lex Luthor, a lot of people wanted other people to play the character, and not too sure if Nicholas Hoult should be Lex Luthor. I personally think that is an inspired choice. Nicholas Hoult is a phenomenal actor, and a director like James Gunn can really bring a lot out of him because he's that type of actor that needs a very demanding director to bring a great performance out of him. So I'm really, really excited to see what happens with Superman Legacy, but I also know that if this movie is just good, okay, or even it could be great, but if Superman is not a standout, which I'm scared of, this is going to haunt the movie and that character moving forward. It can be fun. It can be really, really fun, just like a lot of James Gunn films are, but if they don't knock out all the different aspects that this character needs, it's going to hurt. And that's going to go for Batman as well. We're going to get Batman Brave and the Bold in the future as well. And we don't know who's casted it. We know who's directed it. The guy who did The Flash. I think that was a mistake to announce that so fast. We also going to have Robert Pattinson's Batman. And we're also going to always think about Ben Affleck and what that could have been and why that didn't continue. And then we're also going to think about how the fact that Christian Bale has maybe some of the greatest Batman movies of all time. And then you compare Batman to the animated series, and you compare Batman to Adam West, and that character has a long history and multiple versions that people will compare. And that's just the stuff that is not on comic book. When you look into the comic books, some people are going to compare it to that, especially comic book fans. So as you see, what I'm getting here is the fact that one of the hugest problems that James Gunn is going to have is the fact that are people going to accept the castings for the characters that he has. Even with something like Supergirl Woman Tomorrow, Millie Alcott got the role. A lot of people wanted other girls to get that role, and now she has an uphill battle to play, even though Supergirl hasn't been in the mainstream in terms of like a movie for a long time. Obviously there was the CW show, but that was on TV, and the popularity waned down as it went. The fan casting, the fact that the DC Universe fans are splintered amongst different things. There's Arrowverse fans, there's animated series fans, there's animated movie fans, there's people who just like the comic books, and there's some people that hold on to a Christopher Reeve or old version of the character. And James Gunn is going to always be compared to that unless he knocks it out of the park with the characterization of the characters and their story and make it people forget about what was going on there, or at least feel like it's on the level of it, because that was the main thing that was happening with Henry Cavill with the Man of Steel. It was always being compared to Christopher Reeve. After a while, some people really liked his depiction of this darker version. What can James Gunn do where it feels like he's going against what the Henry Cavill fans want and the Christopher Reeve fans want? So I think that is going to be a major issue when it comes to casting of the characters, fan casting of the characters from fans, and thinking that their picks are better, and then them always comparing it to a different version of the characters. One thing that I think that he has an advantage here when it comes to that is the fact that he's starting out with so many niche characters, like a Mr. Terrific, that yes, he was in Arrow, but people didn't really watch that character that much or really know. So he'll be fresh. Even like Hawk Girl, yes, there's a Hawk Girl in the Justice League Unlimited, but they're establishing that this is a separate character and very different. Metamorpho and all these characters that he's going to be introducing. Guy Gardner, which is a different Green Lantern. I think that he will be able to knock it out of the park with those characters because there's going to be less expectation. But on the caveat that the main issue with that, and this is going to be the second problem I'm going to bring up, is the fact that he's not going to have the main characters of the DC Universe going off the bat in the first couple films. The DC Universe is technically starting with Creature Commandos, a very, very niche, but perfect for James Gunn, set of characters that I don't even really know about, and I read comics, and I feel like it might not hit like a lot of people think it's going to. It could be a smash hit obviously, right? Like the trailer could come out, a lot of people could start talking about it. It could be something very surprising there, especially since those characters will be translating over to live action. Creature Commandos, Supergirl getting her own movie, The Authority, Swamp Thing, all these characters that he has announced that are getting films and having different variations of like R-rated and things like that is going to be a battle here, right? So like with the MCU, and I don't want to keep comparing, we had the Avengers 6, right? Captain America, Black Widow, Hawkeye, Iron Man, and the big green guy, the Hulk. And these were the main characters of the universe. And everybody else were kind of side characters and were supporting in the story of the main Avengers. Doctor Strange, Ant-Man, Guardians of the Galaxy. Wow, fan favorites and people really love these movies. They always felt like they were on the outside looking in a little bit and supporting these main 6. And the equivalent of that in the DC universe is the Justice League 7, whether that's Superman, Batman, Wonder Woman, Flash, Aquaman, Green Lantern, and then whoever they pick as a 7th character, which could be Martian Manhunter, Hawkgirl, or Cyborg. Him not establishing that 7 in the first couple years of the DC universe will make people feel kind of like how they feel about phase 4 and 5 of the MCU, feel like it doesn't have any direction. Because yes, we will have a Superman movie where he's young-ish, but then we're going to have a Batman movie where he's oldish, so they're not even going to be around the same age. Then we're not going to have any Wonder Woman movie, no Flash movie, no Aquaman movie. We're going to have a Green Lantern TV show. Who knows when that's going to show up? And that's going to be 2 different Green Lanterns from the one that's going to be in Superman Legacy. I feel like it's going to be overwhelming for the mainstream audience, and that's the only way that this kind of project or these kind of universes work. You have to simplify it enough for the mainstream audience, because we see the comic book audience is not enough. As much as I wish they were enough, unfortunately we are not enough. The mainstream has to latch on and want to see it. We have to be, the comic book audience has to be excited for it, so that the mainstream audience don't feel like they're going to be missed out on stuff, on the water cooler conversations. And we have to have these main characters that everyone can latch on. So yeah, this is the main 7, and then all the other people can trickle through. So that, I think that's going to be an issue with him not establishing it. He could definitely still do it. He might be developing all these things. They just talked about doing a Teen Titans live action film, which is another thing when it comes back to the casting, is going to be, you know, competing against other versions. Obviously there's a live action television show called Titans that is divisive, but a lot of people liked. Teen Titans Go, Teen Titans, the animated show from 20 years ago, a lot of people still love those dynamics. They're going to hold on to that. And then we also have Young Justice, which is a very similar situation, and obviously the Teen Titans from the comic books. So him not establishing that 7 and then having everything trickle out from that is going to be somewhat of an issue, and I hope that is something that's rectified very early on in this version, and it's going to definitely be a mountain to climb on top of the fan casting. A lot of people are going to be confused, like, how are these connected? Where are we going? And then pick and choose which movies they want to see if they feel like this is not something I'm going to miss out on, which is what the MCU is going through right now. So how can James Gunn overcome 90 years of history that he has to battle and use and try to make the perfect version of characters, or people are going to reject some of it, or it might not hit the way it needs to, because, you know, this is going to be a reboot of sort, and he has to do what's best for the franchise and make a hit each time and can't fail again. How is he going to overcome all the fan casting? How is he going to overcome the fact that he's not going through the Justice League 7? I think that he overcomes this by just making the best versions of these characters, going movie by movie, and getting the fans where he comes, and not over bloating the budgets of these films. Swamp Thing should not be a $200 million film. The Authority probably shouldn't be a $200 million film. I think that these smaller characters and shows shouldn't be $10 million per episode, $15 million per episode shows when you get that, especially since they're going to be on HBO Max, which is a very small community of people on there. Max doesn't really get a lot of shows on the streaming charts that much, and when they do, they're usually reality TV shows or like a show that airs on HBO and then streams on Max. So there's not a lot of TV shows on there that happens. And then also he's going to be competing against the Batman trilogy from Matt Reeves and the Joker trilogy from Todd Haynes. He really needs to establish that this is a connected universe. He really needs to establish his characters in a way that people are entertained and make them full-fledged characters. Superman needs to be liked and likable, and needs to be executed in a way where mainstream audience can finally connect with the character like they did back in the day when Christopher Reeves was the main character. He loved that character back in the day, and they need to have David Cornswet come in and being this very likable farm boy from Kansas that has a multitude of personal issues that he has to deal with that hurts him being a superhero. Superman has that Peter Parker Spider-Man dynamic, even though he's this all-powerful being, because he still has very human emotions, and they really need to knock that down. And I think that James Gunn, and this is something that I've talked about with Marvel, and I think why Marvel's having issues right now, other than the trying to pump out stuff too fast. I think that the way Marvel started when they first was doing this was they were taking comic books and then adapting them and changing them as they go to really have a through line, and where the character arcs is going. Recently, in these last couple phases, they've kind of gone away from that and kind of trying to tell their own original stories, which is not connecting to comic book fans, and the mainstream fans are kind of like, this is a lot of going on here. It's not as concrete or clear. And I think the fact that he is saying, hey, the inspirations for Superman, the movie, is going to be Kingdom Come, All-Star Superman, Superman Seasons, having that through line, saying that Justice League Unlimited is inspiring the tone of the franchise. Superman Girl, Woman of Tomorrow is literally a comic book that came out a couple years ago, maybe 6 years ago. The fact that he will be adapting that straightforward, for him to adapt those comics and have those comics as the baseline, and then change the things that he needs to change to make it acceptable for a visual medium, and then maybe adding a layer of another genre, because obviously genre movies is in industry is called sci-fi, comic book, horror, action films. Those are called genre films. So use the genres from the non-genre films, like a drama or like a spy thriller, something like how Captain America Winter Soldier did and why that movie is so beloved. Add that layer there, so when people come in, it grounds it for them, their story, like, oh, this is a coming of age story, or this is an immigrant story, which can be used for Superman, or this is a detective noir story, which can be used for Batman, and that's why The Batman was such a great film. If he can find a way to not only knock out the characterizations and make people not compare these characters to the past iterations so much, and he can take from the comic book source material, this will please the comic book fans right away, because they'll be able to recognize certain things. And then if he can add that layer that grounds it, that from a different genre, whatever genre he picks, whether it's a war film or whatever, and have those tropes in there, I think he will have a recipe for success. And I think James Gunn will do a great job when it comes to visually, the filmmaking, and taking his time to make the movies the best possible. So yes, James Gunn does have a hurdle that he has to crawl over when it comes to the casting and how he does the characters, but I think he's very, very capable of doing all these things after seeing what he did with the Guardians trilogy. And I'm really, really excited to finally get a DC universe that is going to be going and has a plan, and then hopefully accepted by the mainstream, so that we can stop getting all these clickbait articles about how bad the DC universe is. So guys, I was really excited to talk about this and this fresh perspective. I wanted to use this to kind of make a jumping off point for maybe a new series that I can do on the channel called The Problem. I have one I'm developing on the problem with the MCU that they have right now. A lot of people are attacking it for different reasons, and I have a different perspective on there, so I'm definitely going to try to do that. But I'm really, really excited to talk about these things as well, because these are things I talk about with my friends all the time, and I want to talk to you guys as well. So I want to thank Tava Smoka for asking this question and for me able to have this time with you guys to talk about this. Let me know in the comments down below how you feel about this video, all the different aspects I attached, and do you think that there's other problems that James Gunn has to face in making the new DCU the best it can be and hit on a mainstream level? Because the DC universe used to be bigger than the MCU. The Marvel universe, as I said, MCU, up until 2008. So they dominated for so long, and then the MCU started, and then it was around when the Justice League came out in 2012 is where the competition was completely different. So let me know in the comments down below how you feel, and if you have any other questions you want me to ask me for Attacking Zach, or if there's any questions you want me to figure out, like in The Problem, this new series I want to start, let me know in the comments down below as well. If you like this video, hit that like button, attack the subscribe button to join the Zach Attack Nation, and hit the notification bell so you can be notified of my reviews, reactions, live discussions, and much, much more. You can watch more content right now.